With eyes of every conceivable kind, Call looked past the castellum to the dead, grey mass of Mount Sotha. Most troubling indeed. I had not expected this level of activity so soon. Hypothesis, Archimagos Dominus? Asked Quo 87. For the record. The mechanism is waking. That much is evident, said Call. The period of dormancy is over. I concur, said Quo 87, though Call had no need for his servant's agreement. Call was a genius 100 times over. Quo was he could barely voice it, even to himself. Quo was a very sophisticated thing. I've been thinking of Friedrich a lot recently, he said abruptly. Quo 87 turned his head slowly to look at Call. He really was incredibly intelligent, but limited. There was no understanding of the emotional content of what Call was trying to say.
Statistically speaking,
I thought you should know, said Call. Quo 87 gave him a patient look. Hypothesis as to Xenos machine spirit reactivation. For the record. The quill nib scratched over the screen. The rift must have something to do with it, as observed elsewhere in similar installations, said Call, businesslike again. Critical mass of reawakening was reached some time ago in other dynastic territories, so I suspect destruction of Imperial presence on Sotha to be the catalyst here. Hypothesis. This device has been biding its time. Initial actions of Xenos machine spirit, said Quo 87. For the record. Hypothesis only. Dictate away, said Quo 87. Self-repair, said Call. Re-establishment of function, reconstitution of machinery. Its ultimate goal is the reopening of the beacon and re-establishment of superluminal network in Ultima Segmentum. Hypothesis regarding visions experienced by Belisarius Call. Call drummed metal fingers on the inside of the hull. Either the Pharos is trying to communicate with me, or it is attempting an attack. Both options are disquieting. Neither are self-exclusionary. End hypothesis. Quo 87 nodded, because Call had built him to emulate human behaviors before stowing away his data slate. Alpha Primus yanked his driving sticks. The tank negotiated the rubble and moved on up the road to the Emperor's Watch.
Chapter 7. Those Left Behind. Contragrav pulsed with headachy strength, the backwash too weak to tremble the metal, but strong enough to ripple the humours of the human body. Felix felt the throb of the engine in his eyes, in his teeth, and in his bowels. The repulsor carried several banks of heavy anti-gravitic engines. Being huge and massively armoured, it required far more than most other levitating vehicles, and its displaced mass ironed flat whatever it travelled over. Light craft held aloft on such fields skimmed gracefully. They almost flew. A repulsor tank was neither light nor graceful, and it growled with the machine spirit's ill temper as it laboured up the road to the fortress monastery of the Scythes of the Emperor. The rear thruster array roared loudly. The amount of power required to move such heft forwards was sufficient to propel a void fighter, yet the tank moved slowly, and the engines were running hot. Cooling systems thrummed at the rear of the seating area. Heat beat at the occupants of the transit bay, Felix and half of his bodyguard. "This way is almost too steep for the tank," said Dalus. As was his role as technological liaison in the Chosen, he piloted Felix's transport like he piloted the Overlord. Troncus drove the lead tank, where Communus rode ahead with the others, insisting that Felix ride in the second vehicle in the column. On the numerous screens of the tank, Felix watched the progress of the group. Veteran brother Austin managed the turret of Communus's repulsor. His helmet flashed in the sun as he panned the guns back and forth across the road. Felix ran multiple scans on their surroundings. The mountain resisted all attempts to penetrate its stone deeply. The exact scannable distance varied from a dozen to over 50 yards, but whatever the distance, in each case the scans suddenly stopped, leaving a sinister blankness on the screens. The kind of scan did not matter. Every sort of pass resulted in the same. Sonar was as affected as neutron pulses. The other three Primaris Marines watched Felix work, offering help where they could, except Cadmus, who stared fixedly at the exterior view and became more pensive the closer they came to the monastery gates.
"There is nothing beyond this point," said Felix, pointing at the screen. "I cannot see within the mountain." "That's impossible,"
said Yansar, his gravelly voice distinctive even through the voxmeter.
"A phrase we're hearing too often," said Diomedes. "What do you sense, brother?"
Felix asked Gathine. The epistolary's fingers flexed around his force stave. "Nothing," he said. "I see the same as the machines."
"A material that is impervious to all scans, material and immaterial," said Felix. "I have encountered this before."
"Black stone," said Gathine. "Nothing else has these properties. Call speaks of awakening structures." "Necrons, then," said Diomedes. He was of the Silver Skulls, and the jewels set into his armor twinkled in the tank's dim interior light. He kicked the bench plinth opposite him. "Necrons hide beneath every damn rock we look under these days."
"Halt!"
Communus voxed from the lead tank.
"Obstruction ahead!"
The Chosen readied themselves for a fight. Helms were replaced and weapons retrieved from their racks. They moved with a choreography honed by long practice, and despite the close confines, they were ready in moments. The tank coasted to a stop. The road was broad enough to allow the repulsors to sit side by side, though only just. Doing so left no space for the passenger compartment doors to open, so Daedalus brought the tank to a halt offset from and behind the lead vehicle, so both their turrets could cover the road. Felix looked to the forward vidscreen. Past the solid block of Communus's transport, the way was closed by rubble. The remains of a gatehouse clung to the mountain rock face. Straight lines of masonry welded to the stone described lost rooms. The walls had been yards thick. It was not sufficient to stop the Kraken. The rest of the gatehouse was heaped on the road it had guarded.
"Gathine, Cadmus, Yansar, with me. Diomedes, into the turret. Daedalus, hold position,"
Felix said. Weapon systems hummed as power was diverted from the reactor. Radiolights blinked on control banks. The machine spirits awoke, hungry for combat. Diomedes clambered upwards, his backpack automatically plucked from his back by robotic arms and power feeds snaking out from below the turret ring to plug him directly into the tank. Alarms whooped to warn of atmospheric purge. The air in the compartment was sucked up and packed away into pressurized cylinders. Doors to the left and right clanged down, forming ramps that gave slightly as the Space Marines disembarked. The landscape outside was noiseless, cold and drear, a worn pict of a real place. Waves of contragrav buffeted Felix's legs from the idling tank. His rad sensors crackled under a rain of displaced subatomic particles. The Primaris Marines spread out, weapons up.
"Damn fine place for an ambush,"
Diomedes voxed. He angled his onslaught Gatling cannon up on the pintle and commanded the machine spirit to rotate the turret slowly towards the mountain face. The road had been cut into the mountain at sharp angles. Thousands of years of erosion had worn at the basalt facing, but the cliff remained sheer. Call's odd transport was coming to a halt behind, Thracian's tanks close after. The gatehouse had come down in massive cubes, bristling with hyperdense carbon rebar. Felix took a few steps forwards. Communus was already out, the warriors with him covering the blockage as Tullio knelt at the base of the rubble, the auspex built into his right forearm, playing a fan of light over the lumps of rockcrete. Felix came to a halt beside the veteran sergeant.
"We can't go over it."
"No," said Communus. "It's a collection of tank traps an engine seer would be proud of." "I have something. Voids in the mass. Organic matter," Tullio pointed. "Over there." Ixon moved to the place indicated, his transhuman physiology enabling him to heave aside a huge chunk of rockcrete as if it were packing material. He poked at the ground with his foot. "Tyrannid," he said, aiming his bolter into the hole. A monstrous head lolled out of the rubble. A symbiotic subform was clamped around its shoulders and face. Both its skin and that of its host creature were raw with rad burns. "Dead," said Ixon. "That one is," said Tullio. He flipped his Auspex panel closed and aimed his bolt rifle up. Fragments of rockcrete were slipping down the rubble heap. Grains, gravel, rocks, then boulders bouncing by in avalanche.
That one isn't.
The Space Marines opened fire at the beast as it heaved its way from the pile. Felix didn't recognize the type, though he'd studied the xenoforms threatening his domain with his usual diligence. It was hexapedal, like all Tyranids, and resembled their common heavy assault beasts, though it was smaller and slighter. Its 4 arms all ended in bonded melee symbiotes. No ranged weapons, while its spore chimneys were vestigial, with no visible openings. This one also sported a symbiote. The subcreature consisted mostly of sacs that inflated and deflated in sequence, with thick, gristly tubes leading into the host's breathing spiracles. It emerged into a storm of bolt rifle fire. The tanks opened up, piercing its body with coherent light and a hail of bullets. Diomedes played Gatling fire over the symbiotic creature, breathing for the attack beast, shredding the delicate body. Yet the creature did not fall, but came on, clawed hooves pushing fans of broken tower before it. Its own weight hindered it in the loose material, and it sank up to its hocks. The tanks bristled with armament, the pair of them outfitted with differing payloads that granted a mixed anti-armor and anti-infantry capability. Their crew and their machine spirits made liberal use of both types, hammering the beast with bullet and blast. A double las cannon shot drilled the creature through the head. It fell with a scream, vented silently into the void.
"Not so fearsome,"
said Ixon. He advanced on it, gun up. He put a bolt round through its eye, to be sure.
"Are there any more in the rubble?"
Communus asked.
"Negative,"
said Tullio, consulting his Auspex again.
"All clear. Epistolary?"
"I can sense nothing," said Gathine. Felix paced forwards to the beast. Its body was covered in sores.
"Cool's beams did their work,"
he said, deliberately refraining from glancing back at the Archmagos's chariot. Yansar played a medical scanner over the corpse.
"Heavily irradiated,"
he acknowledged.
"but it was alive. If there are any more buried deeper, then they will give us trouble. Get me a scan. See if there are any more further up," ordered Felix.
"We can count on these things being scattered across the planet," said Thracian, only now joining them. "I've seen these rearguard organisms before. There will be more of them, laid up in a hunting net around the world, though I do not think we are in enough numbers to trigger a summoning call."
"The Tyranids return?"
asked Yansar. "If sufficient biomass is present, they will," said Thracian. "These organisms are not the only risk. We must be wariest when we go within." He pointed up the mountain.
"You are speaking of gene stealers. They will almost certainly be present in the monastery," said Felix.
"That is their standard behavior post-predation," said Thracian. "You see this addition here?" Thracian bent low and lifted a leathery flap of skin, burst open now, on the breathing symbiote. "It is an atmosphere recycler. Gene stealers do not need air. They can survive for weeks without taking a breath when active, and for centuries in hibernation. There is no trick that is beneath them. All Xenos are worthy of our hatred," said Ixon. "But I'm growing to hate these Tyranids more than most." "Then you have an idea of how we feel," said Thracian.
"Get digging. If we level the top off, we can get the tanks over,"
said Felix. He voxed Dalus. "Any more sign of active chapter defenses?" "No, my lord," said Dalus. "We are out of the fire arc for orbital and anti-air weapons. I have no readings from the wall guns."
Felix nodded. "Be on your guard. Regular scans, regular attempts at data link with chapter assets. I would prefer not to arrive under fire."
"This rubble pile is definitely clear, my lord," said Tullio, and stood back. "There's nothing alive within a mile of our position."
"Then clear it," said Felix. "We delay too long."
The Space Marines began hurling boulders over the edge of the sheer-sided mountain road. "My lord," Diomedes voxed. "Company. Call's creature." Alpha Primus emerged from Call's transport and strode towards the others. The uncolored ceramite of his plain armor was as gray as the landscape. His helm, though perfectly maintained, somehow conveyed the ugliness of his butchered face.
"Stand aside," he said. "The Archmagos has commanded that I deal with this obstruction." "On your own?" said Tullio in disbelief. "Let us help you dig, brother." "I have no brothers," said Alpha Primus. "I am unique, the first of our kind, and I do not need to dig. Stand aside." The warriors on the pile paused and looked to their tetrarch. "Move back," said Felix. "Let him."
"Aye, and the quicker he fails, the quicker we can dig our way through," voxed Diomedes. He did nothing to blunt his disdain for Call's servant. The rest felt the same way, Felix was sure. Primus made his skin crawl. Alpha Primus set himself before the rubble and placed his feet apart. "Back," he said. "Further. I have no wish to harm you." With shared looks, the Primaris Marines retreated to their vehicles. Thracian's men followed. Gathine glanced back. As Alpha Primus raised his hand, fingers spread, his force stave flared with counter-sorcery.
"Emperor's bones," said the epistolary.
He's
a
Psionic power burst from Primus, buffeting them all and making the hover tanks bob about. The ground cracked around his feet with webs of purple light. From his hand emanated a lash of fire the same color, and where it touched the rockcrete, it exploded upwards and outwards, spun about in the air, and whirled away over the precipice. The great bulk of the blockage heaved, as if a flat board had been placed underneath and lifted. A glowing bubble through which the way ahead was clearly visible pushed the rubble up and sideways. Primus clenched his fist. The bubble exploded outwards, and the rubble tumbled off the road and down the side of the mountain. His job done, Primus turned back to the group, his eye lenses shining with dying power, and walked towards Call's transport. Gathine voxed him as he passed. "Why didn't I sense your power?" he said. Primus kept his gaze ahead and his stride unbroken. "The Emperor gave the Space Marines many gifts," said Alpha Primus leadenly. "I was given more than most." The task force returned to their vehicles and continued their ascent. They passed upwards with no further challenge. Several more gatehouses straddled the road, but all were intact, silent, only their gates destroyed or withdrawn. Twice the column was obliged to stop where wrecked armor blocked the way, but each time Thracian gave his consent for the tanks to be pushed off the mountain to speed their progress. Felix made note of this haste. To Space Marines, all war gear was sacred and hard to replace.
Surely Call's gift to his chapter was not so great that Thracian can afford to abandon his relics,
he asked Dalus via a private channel. "He is in a hurry to get to his monastery," said Dalus. "That is for sure. There must be objects of greater worth there. They were forced to leave in haste."
"Perhaps," said Felix.
He was not convinced. Cadmus's words returned to him. "They are hiding something." He watched a predator fall from the lip of the road and fly into pieces on the rocks below. Near the summit, the road passed through a tunnel bored through the mountain stone. The outer wall had been carved with fine windows, looking out over Scythopolis far below. All the armor glass was broken, and many of the pillars between. Acid burns etched mutilating lines across the faces of statues. On the other side of the road, a row of sentry guns dangled slackly in their mounts. But it was the inner surface of the tunnel, to the right of the column and beneath the guns, that drew Felix's attention. Through the basalt that clothed the mountain, a second kind of rock emerged. A thread-fine fault to begin with, it soon grew wider, showing stone that was a green so deep it appeared black in the shadows, and only revealed a hint of its true color where the sun hit it. It was this substance that the scans would not penetrate.
"Black stone,"
said Felix. The repulsor thumped past a cluster of entrances into the mountain. The tallest was an oval, 60 feet tall, surrounded by dozens of others of much smaller scale, all of them blocked by age-worn ferrocrete. After these, the amount of black rock visible increased in proportion to the basalt, until it walled off the whole of the tunnel's side. The tank sensorium went dead. Felix adjusted his instruments. An insistent, pulsed crackling dogged the vox.
"Thracian! Thracian!"
Felix voxed. Getting no reply, he shouted through to Dalus.
Vox problems. Diagnose, Tech Marine.
His voice was unsteady. The suit voxmeter, too, was malfunctioning.
All of them are out, Tetrarch. Outside interference. Calls radiation.
Negative, Dalis said back. It is coming from the mountain, said Gathine. The tank emerged out of the tunnel and into the open. The Blackstone pushed its way back under the mountain's skin. The Sensorium's instruments flickered and came back online.
Chapter Master Thracian, respond.
Felix tried again. Thracian's response was immediate and clear.
Tetrarch, I experienced a loss of communications. Is this a usual occurrence here?
Thracian did not respond immediately.
No,
he said, finally. The tanks rounded the final corner on the road. Ahead, protected by an outlying bailey, were the great gates of the fortress monastery. Though the outer walls and gates blocked some of the view, the main gates were 150 feet high and visible from the road. They tapered gracefully to a Gothic arch, the surround carved in the likeness of spreading foliage. It seemed the gates had borne a relief from peasant work, men and women cutting back vegetation with scythes, but more than that it was impossible to see. Though cast from high-grade adamantium, the gates were smashed, one bent almost in two by an inconceivable blow, the other buckled. Still, there were no corpses, no dead, only inorganic materials left behind.
Slow down,
said Felix. The eeriness of the mountain put him on guard.
Approach at 3/4 speed. Weapons ready.
The sun was heading off to the west and falling behind the fortress monastery's lower reaches. The uppermost tower atop the mountain bathed in golden light, as it had every evening since the time the Emperor had walked and breathed. The defenses cast long black shadows that crept out to meet the convoy.
Yo! Thanks for the raid, man. Appreciate you. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. They still not fixed this. Bruh.
The outer gatehouse's drum towers embraced them in cool dark. These lesser gates were twisted scraps, and the gateway had been blocked with barricades. It appeared they had been held for a while after the first breach. With no dead, judging the course of the battle was difficult. How very strange to see a battlefield like that, still appearing fresh, preserved by the vacuum, scattered with debris and shell casings, but devoid of combatants. It was a model landscape before the principal actors had been added. Communus's tank shunted aside the remnants of the barricades. These had been overrun and torn down at some point, and presented little obstacle to the hover tanks. What was left was pounded flat by their gravity fields as they floated through.
But yeah, thanks for the raid, though. Appreciate you. Much love, much love.
Halt!
Voxed Communus. The tank's square body blocked Felix's view into the bailey.
There are no threat indicators.
No enemy, said Communus, sending a pict feed of what lay ahead to Felix.
We are entering the presence of the honored dead.
Yeah, listening to Belisarius' call, the great work. Been enjoying myself with 40k.
You are right to call halt. Go forwards. Slowly, Dalis, ordered Felix.
I have a higher regard for technology than Thracian, Dalis said, for once without levity. I will be careful. War gear was all that was left. Empty suits of power armor lay around the bailey, most concentrated before the main gate. The bodies inside had been taken by the Kraken, and though some suits had been disarticulated during consumption, others lay as they had fallen, empty gauntlets wrapped around gun grips and swords, their sagging body gloves holding battle plate together in semblance of life. Honor the battle gear of the dead, intoned Dalis. Honor the memory of those left behind.
Bring us to a halt, Dalis, said Felix. Disturb nothing. We must allow Thracian to retrieve the gear of the fallen, if he so wishes.
Dalis maneuvered the tank to a gentle stop, and though the pulsed waves of the grav generators rocked a few of the abandoned warsuits, not one piece was damaged.
"Call 'em halt," Felix voxed the others. "Chapter Master, I offer my regret and respect."
To his own men, he said,
"I am venturing outside. Ixon and Yansar, follow me."
"There are no detected threats."
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Much love.
That's my boiler point. A new pattern revealed. Take them out!
I look the opposite direction once and everything goes to shit. How many people are here? 2, 3.
"My lord," said Dalus.
"You know what to do should any emerge," said Felix. "Rear ramp."
He stood as the ramp descended. Before he set out, Communus voxed him.
"Stay within! Earthquake! A big one!"
The tank's contra-gravity field cushioned it from the effects of the tremor, but outside the empty armor suits jiggled where they lay, and loose material fell from damaged buildings. "The mountain is unstable," said Dalus. "We should consider putting our aerial assets on alert for evacuation as soon as we've disabled the defense matrix." Felix wasn't listening. He couldn't hear. By the time the tremor hit its peak, he was somewhere else entirely. Chapter 8. An Irrefusable Offer. Circa 6,500 years ago. Strange music played an intricate mathematical progression of mellow strings. Felix screamed as his body was cut open. There was little pain. Call was no sadist, but certain of the procedures demanded that his subjects remain conscious, and the smell of Felix's own burning flesh, as the las scalpels sliced it, terrified him. The lack of human company made it worse. He was on his own, surrounded by unfeeling machines that moved around him on their predetermined paths of torment, incapable of hearing his terror or of feeling mercy. Mechanical spider limbs bearing blades and laser cutters and little pots of quivering organic jellies blurred past. Today they were cutting into his skull. His head was pinned into place, and he could not move. He felt the rubber tips of ruthless fingers peel back his scalp, heard the whining screech of blade biting bone, felt the soft cup suck onto his cranium and remove the top of his skull, as if it were the lid to a jar. Other machines put things in there. They poked his brain. Strange colors bled across his vision. Phantom smells teased him. He burst into song through his tears as the seat of his soul was prodded, tugged, and tested. And it went on, and on, and on. There were hundreds of other youths undergoing the same procedures. He could hear them outside his sealed, sterile tube. Hundreds of other boys who were not really boys anymore, but hormone-bulked warrior things halfway to maturity. Many of them screamed and cried. Felix need not have been ashamed of his fear.
"Integration of Stage 5 at 97%. Primaris Subject 1007993, operating within optimal parameters."
A cool counterseptic mist squirted over his exposed brain. "Please, please, let me go," he pleaded. Bang! A soft bump as his skullcap kissed his lower cranium. The whining busyness of a bone welder moved around his head. Hot bone smell made him want to sneeze. The thought of that panicked him. He envisioned his brain shaken loose. "Please," he whimpered, as his shaved scalp was tucked back into place, and another arm, bearing spools of thread and a jabbing needle, stitched it tight. A cold nozzle pressed onto the crook of his clamped-down arm and hissed. "Please," he said. He was falling asleep.
"Be brave, my little warriors," said the monster's voice over the music. "I offer you something no other shall have. Power to serve humanity as no others have served. In service to mankind, there is glory."
"But I don't," Felix slurred. "But I don't want power." Bang!
"And that is why you shall have it," said the monster, close by his ear.
Blackness. Then,
"Where are we going?"
said a voice that was the monster's but not.
Can you not at least tell me that?
No, said another voice, a woman. Patience, please.
Bang. But I don't...
Circa 10,000 years ago.
See why you can't explain just a little to us?
The woman came to a standstill so suddenly her boots squeaked on the black marble floor, bringing Call and Friedish to an ungraceful halt. Her soldiers stopped flawlessly. My information was correct. You are irritatingly garrulous. They were far away from the miserable districts housing the refugees, high up in Riser's upper levels, where glorious ways clad in precious stone and chased with symbolic golden circuitry lifted high ceilings on fine columns, and the priests of the cult Mechanicus went about in dignified debate, guarded by cyborgs with burnished augmetics. Call took it all in his stride, behaving as if he belonged there. Friedish cowered, so overawed by the high and mighty cult lords around him, he shrank away when they so much as glanced at him. Call smiled ingratiatingly.
Speech is the first mode of informational exchange. My entire life, my entire culture is concerned with the acquisition of information. You must forgive me a few questions, said Call.
The woman gave him a hard look. The cult Mechanicus, she shook her head. The Emperor should never have thrown in his lot with your kind. You are anathema to the imperial truth. Gods, worship of knowledge, insanity. She resumed walking.
Without our knowledge, none of your warriors' enhancements would be possible, said Call.
He waved his hand at the woman's guards.
Our veneration of the machine god's truths has preserved his gifts.
She stopped again. Science made my warriors, she said. Not superstition, not praying to a non-existent god, not singing to anything. I am a scientist. You are a witch doctor. She began walking again, faster this time, so that Call and Friedish were forced into a trot to keep up with her.
Then we are of one mind, surely, said Call. You and I are both questers for the truth.
We are not, she said. I pursue the truth. You follow a religion. There is no gulf wider than that between our opinions in all the universe.
I think you are wrong,
said Call, who was never one to let a good debate die.
Faith in rationalism is still faith.
I think you're a threat to the Imperium, she said. There has never been and never will be a true religion, except that followed by the great enemy, and that is not only evil to the root, it is predicated on 1 billion lies. She didn't address them, but shouted forwards, as if she couldn't even bring herself to look at the tech priests. Yet we rationalists dwindle, while your kind prospers. The inclusion of the Adeptus Mechanicus on the Council of Terror is the death knell for reason. So you enjoy your moral superiority all you want in the coming years, she said. I want you to remember my words, because my opinion will trouble you for all time. She turned down a side corridor, smaller than the major way they had been following, and ablaze with the light of knowledge, conveyed down optic data pipes embedded in the walls.
Why?
Said Call. Because I believe you know that it is true. They arrived at a golden door, twice the height of a man, guarded by cyborg warriors, almost as tall.
Why have you brought us here to the uppermost sky levels if you hate us so much?
I have been ordered to, she said. I am doing my job. She stood still, while scans from the heavy combat servitors ran down her body from top to toe. It's not me that wants you, she said. If it were my decision, we would never have come here. The Lord Geneticist, Director Ezekiel Sedain, wishes to meet you. Call was surprised.
I know that name, he said. Ezekiel Sedain. Is he here on Riser?
You may enter, Ultrix Herminia,
the servitors boomed in unison. He is not, said the Ultrix. The doors opened onto a hangar housing a small, sleek ground-to-orbit transfer shuttle. An atmospheric shield shone over the entrance. They were so high up in the Ryzen cityscape that the smoggy brown of the atmosphere turned to black at the top of the view, and the steel-skinned planet curved away below into petrochemical obscurity. He is on Terra, and he wishes to see you there. Terra? Said Friedish.
We're going to Terra? Not you, just him, said the Ultrix. You're staying here. Something in the hangar made a hollow bang.
Hang on just one moment, said Call, holding up a finger.
He gave the Ultrix his most winning smile.
I'm not going anywhere without Friedish. If this Director Sedane wants to see me, Friedish comes too.
Bang. What is that noise? Said Friedish. Ultrix Herminia sighed in annoyance. Very well, but I warn you that you have very little room to bargain. Do not use up my good graces at once. When we arrive at Terra, you may wish to save all the favours you can for your negotiations with Director Sedane. Bargain, said Friedish. Negotiations? What is that banging? He peered round the door. Bang.
Do stop that, Friedish, said Call. All that simpering. What bargain?
The Lord Sedane has an offer for you. She smiled unpleasantly. I sincerely advise you not to reject it. Bang. One of your servitors is malfunctioning, said Friedish, pointing out a cyborg repeatedly walking into the wall. I can fix it. Bang. The metal body case thumped into the metal.
What if we elect to stay here? Said Call, also ignoring Friedish.
It's a little too late for that. Her warriors spread out behind the priests, guns raised. You're coming with me, like it or not. Bang! Circa 10,000 years ago. The metal hammered the boulder twice in succession. Bang! Bang! The cliffs reached up for the slate-grey heavens. The world was of dust and sand. There were signs everywhere that it was not always so. Erosive water patterns carved the stone into smooth undulations, so very different to the shapes cut by wind. Organic traces clung on, though long dead, dried-out roots and preserved rhizomes excavated by the careful archaeology of the breeze. Bang! Bang! The wind was getting into its stride, lifting up the dust of 1,000 dead civilizations, casting handfuls of grave gravel against stone, chipping it away grain by grain to the beat of the metallic drum, uncovering and recovering the mess of 40,000 years of human civilization.
Did I disturb you?
The man's voice said. The natural reaction was to turn and look. Call began the process, but he could not turn. The act should have been simplicity itself. All he had to do was move. A cascade of synaptic impulses racing from the brain, decided subconsciously before conscious decision. The id tricking the ego, that deception that enables all humans to be without being, activating the limbs, setting the body in motion, all without choice, but with the illusion of choice. Turn. Simple. But he did not turn.
This is rather
Bang.
rare.
Bang! Bang! Call bowed his head and dropped to his knee, facing away from the man. He did not like to kneel. He never had. Being so tall, it made him look ridiculous. But the being demanded it. Not the man himself. He disliked bowing and scraping. But the essence of him, his soul, was so potent you could feel the heat of it on your skin. That screamed out for respect. He had no name, at least not one that he shared, but he called himself the Emperor of Mankind. The gall to call oneself so seemed immense until you met him. Anyone who had ever met him knew the title was no hollow conceit. It was not born of arrogance. It was simply apt.
You may rise, said the Emperor. You have no need to kneel. Knowledge should not kneel to power.
He smiled. His humor washed over Call in a warm, uplifting wave.
It should be the other way around. Alas, it is not always so, but we should try our best to treat each other with respect and make it true. I could not have said it better myself, said Call.
He got to his feet. Still he did not look, but kept his eyes downcast. He had a fleeting sight of a brown-skinned hand. He looked away from it. Bang! The metal cared nothing for the doings of men, no matter how mighty. It cared only for its feud with the rock. Bang!
circa 100 years ago. Bang, bang, bang.
Fall back! The outer gate is taken! Fall back to the walls!
Thracian stood on the bastion walk abutting the main gatehouse, looking down into a courtyard where death reigned unopposed. An Icarus squad cannon chattered violently off to his right in front of the outermost tower of the main gate. Walls behind him rose to the sky, walls that should have been strong enough to hold back any enemy. The men that built them had not accounted for the hive fleets. A Carnifex reared up in fury and took its death wound from a las cannon fired at point-blank range. The beast flung its club fists wide, and it flopped down with a crack of chitin on rockcrete. But its work was done. The barricades across the gateway were smashed aside, leaving the bailey unprotected. Two more Carnifexes lumbered through the gate over their fallen broodmate. Massive talons stabbed at men. One of the beasts carried a biocannon whose ammunition sacks pulsed with its eagerness to fire. Its embedded eye roved over the banquet of targets. The Carnifex raised the weapon, the sacks constricted, and a rush of hyperacidic bile engulfed two space marines. The agony they endured as it ate through their soft seals and into their bodies was enough to make the Emperor's Chosen scream. All along the bailey wall, Thracian's warriors were embattled. Creatures bounded up the dead, piled at the front of the fortifications, using them as ramps to launch themselves at the defenders. They did not care for their own survival. Most were blown apart, but for every 100 that cast themselves to certain death, one got through, and the horde numbered in the millions. There were hundreds of thousands of winged Tyranids, too many to count, so many they filled the sky with an endless blur of crimson and cream. They shrieked as they flew, as if they were in pain, a harsh chorus that blended into one unending wail, so overpowering it seemed it would outlast the universe. A constant barrage from the fortress's guns punched holes in the swarm, creating a rain of blood and flesh. The void shield flickered, pulsing sheets of purple light when bombardment cysts impacted it. Some thousands of the beasts were caught by displacement aftereffects and ripped apart. Others flew so fast they tripped the shields themselves, but each hole torn into the living clouds closed instantly, swallowed as swiftly as stones in a lake. A gargoyle dived at Thracian, vomiting bioplasma from its mouth, while the weapon thing bonded to its forelimbs squirmed and spasmed, ejaculating a stream of acidic slime and frenzied beetles. The insects splattered harmlessly off Thracian's battleplate. The plasma nearly took off his head. Thracian loosed a single bolt as he dived aside. His unerring aim hit the gargoyle square in the chest. The bolt exploded deep inside, obliterating the torso. The flock sped around the explosion. Detached leathery wings spiraled down and came apart like quicktree seeds in the autumn. All along the battlement, yellow and black armored space marines fired upwards, bolt guns on full automatic, shaking their arms. They crossed their fire with perfect discipline, covering each other when they had to reload. The rain of fluid and shattered flesh spattered men, fortifications and machines, so all was slick with alien vitae. Bowed serfs ran along the ramparts, handing precious clips of bolt rounds to their masters from the ammunition sleds they dragged. The sleds were getting lighter. The chapter was running out of ammunition. At the start of the invasion, the armory had brimmed with a brassy treasure of bullets. They had spent it quickly. If Thracian had had time to check the ammo counts for his men, he would have seen a bank of angry red digits blinking down to 0, but he had fewer seconds to spare than he had bolts. Mortis runes clamoured for his attention. His eyes darted across the walls to seek their sources. Brother Bastable carried down by 3 gaunts, Brother Genuus obliterated by a plasma blast, Brother Frodan thrashing under a flock of winged rippers. Everywhere he turned to watch, another warrior died on the wall. His apothecaries dashed from place to place, trying to salvage precious gene seed. One was plucked off his feet and borne skywards. Another was forced back by the tide of the enemy from his brothers, whose writhing bodies were buried by swarms of tiny, toothed organisms. The scythes of the Emperor were dying quickly.
Get back to the main wall! Abandon the outer defenses!
He roared from his voxmeter.
All right, I need to use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Inquest woke up the statue in the northern temple. Place is bleeding with miasma. The damn thing is protected by some sort of spell. Can't damage it. Just another roadblock. That Vlox loves that. The Overseer, Keeper of the Seneschals. Another example of the Doyen's desperation. I have an idea. Grant me a moment to muster my strength. Tribune, what is the state of the forge? Inquest have it locked down, but that's a fight I could win with my claws trimmed. Why? The artificers had a safeguard in case their creations lashed out. It was called the Light of the Forge Masters. Perhaps it will allow us to damage the Allseer. Sounds like a solution. The curse stings my every sense. I cannot fight with you, but I can cast a portal to get you into the forge. On my signal, I will instruct from afar. There. forge is open. Seize control of the 3 forge chambers. With the structure secured, you will cast the light of the Forge Masters.
The Tyrian Alliance is here. Keep them out of the Forge, or I'll assign you to Project 5388. damn it! Get out of there, you dolts! At least I found what I needed. A couple tweaks, and you'll do nicely.
What next, wizard? You'll need to power the forge. Given its present sedation, I imagine the pipework is in disarray. Lots of steps just to fight the thing. I challenge you to approach the All-Seer without the Sacred Light. First, you'll lose all of your fur, then you'll die. Repair the pipework. Got it.
control the stewards. If you weaken them, a realignment spell should sever the influence. I've taken excessive notes on the various realignment spells. You are welcome to consult my research log.
The Forge has changed.
These things sure want to stop us, huh?
These bindings were cast by the All-Seer. It compelled the Seneschal to... Quickly, defeat her spawn so you can unbind the Forge.
Come here.
There's the power. You'll be doing that one for days.
Take them out! Now burn!
Now, repeat after me, Tribune. Sakura. Bruised one.
I'll take that as a good sign.
Sacro Bruchon Fuoco. The All-Seer will... The portal is now open. It will take you to the All-Seer. End this.
Take them out! Rocket punch!
Give up yet?
Fire! Your seams are showing.
Getting healthy.
Chill to the bone! You must let pain. A new pattern revealed. Feel the chill. Air!
Reason's in deep trouble. Getting healthy.
Rise and serve.
Maybe I was the illusion all along.
Accelerating. deep trouble there.
I can move mountains.
Smash them!
Oh,
You're all
Getting healthy. Armor enhanced.
It's working, but careful now. It's only growing more desperate to stop you.
you will melt away.
Sierra summoned the Seneschals. Defeat its protectors and remove the chains.
stand your ground!
Another.
You will obey!
A new pattern revealed.
Armor enhanced.
I see the pattern. Your mind will betray you.
Hurts, doesn't it? Getting healthy.
Come here.
A powerful combination. Invigorating.
All of the chains have been summoned. You must overwhelm the other territories. is working. Mine beastly best souls, your vigil has ended. Once this curse is lifted, my own watch will begin.
That better girl. Statistically speaking, this is rather rare. Wrong about you.
The All-Seer is defeated. They act on their own free will once again. And the All-Seer will throw every defense it can at you. As we've learned, the surrounding territories house the souls of seers who offer their essence to protect the island. Perhaps we can overburden and flood the All-Seer by releasing them. Lamentable but necessary.
Statistically speaking, this is rather rare. There's the power.
Stay alert, Wayfinder.
Commander, you won't believe all these fancy weapons the Inquest have left lying around. Lucky us.
Commander, need some help sorting through the rubble for relics, you free? Inquest had their way with this place, but there's plenty for the Priory to learn here. Your skimmer should be able to help locate relics and artifacts among the rubble. use your skimmer's aether location to find possible relics in the rubble. Commander, your skimmer should be able to help locate relics and artifacts among the rubble.
Rage at maximum.
Wait. I'm curious. The altar has shifted attunement. You'll need to do the same.
Back.
Getting healthy.
That looks like it worked. Keep at it.
Accelerating. Rage at maximum.
That creature dropped a relic of some sort. Perhaps it will power one of the altars? I'm curious. The altar has shifted attunement. You'll need to do the same.
We've collected one heck of a bounty. Gonna get this back to base soon, so bring me anything you've got.
Accelerating.
The altar's magical register has shifted. Its alignment has
Oh,
changed.
what a pleasant
You'll need
surprise.
to adjust as well. functioning once again.
Getting healthy.
Take them out!
Rage at maximum. Rage at maximum. Go get that! There's the power.
I'll destroy you all!
Suffer!
You've done it again. This must be the heart of the structure. And do you see that creature in the center? With all of the knowledge we've collected
Statistically
so far,
speaking,
hopefully we're
this is
equipped
rather
for the
rare.
challenge. I will maintain another ward while you fend off the creature and power up the altars. Together now. We're so close.
Take them out!
That'll silence you. You are all weaklings.
Rage at maximum.
That relic doesn't seem to fit. Perhaps try another?
Accelerating.
Curious. The altar has shifted attunement. You'll need to do the same.
Take them out!
That's not the right altar.
Rocket punch.
Take them out!
That's not the right altar.
Getting healthy.
You can't keep a good man down.
Suffer!
That relic doesn't seem to fit. Perhaps try another? That's not the right
Take them
altar.
out!
All the altars are stable. You know what to do.
Getting healthy.
Take them out!
Rage at maximum. Accelerating.
Take them out! The creature is fixated on me. Strike it down!
Your soul is mine!
Accelerating.
Take that! I chose you.
Rocket punch!
There's the power.
Seriously.
Wayfinder, help!
I'm back.
Invigorate.
The altar's magical register has shifted. Its alignment.
Come here.
I majored in pain with a minor in suffering.
Take them out!
Another testament to my greatness.
We've done it. Catch your breath. I will summon the Astral Ward and Priory to commence research before the defenses awaken again. Don't you worry. We'll keep it secure of any inquest.
You're the big, scary interest making me too nervous to swim. Don't worry.
I'm back, and brilliant. Structural integrity. Rage at maximum.
You are all weaklings.
There's the power.
To battle again.
I made that look easy. There's the power. Take them out! Take them out! Let's get this over with.
Wayfinder, if first, these vines need clearing out. Oh, and the components you need are all nearby. Just bring them straight to me.
Sorry about that. I was on a phone call with my friend. I didn't want a video call rather, so I didn't want to like be all up doing that stuff while you guys are listening to me talk to somebody else. Also, privacy. Did I not do this thing? Like, the fuck even, man? Which one was it? Yeah, remove vines while assisting research in Daniela's ritual. Yeah, I did that. Where's my achievement?
Simultaneously sending the message by company-wide Voxlink. He pulsed urgent runes of retreat and consolidation to his men. The fortress monastery's curtain walls soared above them, seemingly indomitable. But it was not enough. It could never be enough. The Carnifexes at the gates came forwards under heavy fire. Their footsteps shook the ground. Like a bullet easing from a wound in a surgeon's tweezers, the first entered the courtyard, then the second, and a flood of death came behind them, red as blood.
Back to the main walls!
Doorways led into the main gatehouse towers from the Bailey Wall Walk, offering a chance of continuing the fight, at least for a while. But his men were beleaguered, and promised reinforcements from Scythopolis were slow in arriving.
Retreat!
Shouted Thracian. Those scythes on the left wall walk, that part built into the cliff face of Mount Pharos' peak, were cutting their way through the flocks of gargoyles and making for the armored portal. Thracian covered his men, waving them through, counting off each one safely inside the walls with paternal relief as they passed him.
Move! Move! Move!
He yelled, slapping his warriors on their pauldrons, firing at the beasts, trying to end them. 1,000,000 monsters came for them, landing on the walls. Though the aerial Tyranids were helpless on the ground, they were driven by their overlords to hurl themselves onto the battlements, where they flopped and screeched and bit. Boots smashed crested heads. Guns ended hundreds of Xenos lives. Under Thracian's guidance, the left wall emptied of Space Marines. On the right, the situation was hopeless. The walls there rose atop the cliffs and looked down a sheer drop of thousands of feet onto the distant roofs of Scythopolis. The cliff was no protection. The enemy swarmed over the walls. The scythes of the Emperor there were isolated from one another and split into twos or threes. Things with bony blades for limbs scrambled up the sheer face of the mountain and leapt over the crenellations. The warriors on the main wall were too preoccupied with the endless swarms to provide covering fire. Those on the left were intent on their own escape. Out there, on the right, Thracian's men were dying, close enough to see, too far away to help. The mortis alarms rang on. The fingernail pictograph display of his company pulsed with amber and red lights as his squads were annihilated. Something shook the fortress, something from inside. A small tremor, significant nonetheless. The guns cut out. Thracian stared at the sky. The void shield flickered and died. The swarms poured down unhindered.
Command! The defense batteries have ceased firing,
said Thracian. For the first time in 100 years, he felt panic.
The shields are down! Advise immediate evacuation! Command, please advise!
He moved to the side to avoid a plummeting gargoyle. It smashed wetly on the wall walk where he had been standing. He shot down 3 more with his bolt pistol. Vox comms from the Citadel bleeped for his attention. A line of text on the helm plate spelled out Captain Merceria's name.
Main guns are offline. Down to lesser turrets. Get back from the walls. We will hold them at bay until the others return. Await reinforcement from the Sotharan Defense Force. We need to evacuate. There are no reinforcements, Thracian shouted.
The hissing and shrieking of the Tyranids was deafening despite the best efforts of his autosensors to dampen it.
Thorcera would not want this. We will be destroyed. We must abandon Sothar.
Thorcera is not here. We must fall back. Hold the Citadel until the rest of the chapter responds to the recall.
This is suicide,
Thracian replied.
Sothar is lost. Our defenses are gone.
Our brothers are coming. The people of this world are coming. We cannot leave them to face this alone.
Our brothers are dead. The message went out too late. Sotharan ground forces have likely been annihilated. We condemn the chapter to extinction if we remain. You are dooming us, brother!
Thracian shot 4 bolts, one after the other, each one bringing a kill sign clarion from his helm.
I am in command, Mercyria said. Retreat to the citadel.
Thracian swore. The sky swarm was thinning. He was too well versed in the tactics of the hive mind to see this as a reprieve. The Tyranids had seen the shields were gone.
Incoming spore drop,
he bellowed. The last of his men that could were retreating through the tower portals. 7 were left isolated in a courtyard, now crawling with Xenos. He looked skywards. The gargoyles and shrikes were swirling around in a vortex that reached for the void, creating a clear space down to the ground. He saw the low bodies of huge hive ships in the sky, white and blue as a daytime moon in the sunlight. From them, black shapes fell.
Anti-air wall guns! Prioritize drop spores,
he commanded. The last of his men was through the left door portal. It rotated shut, crushing a gargoyle scuttling after to paste.
Seal left wall gate.
In the wall, mechanisms injected fast-setting ferrofoams into the door cavity. Thracian descended stairs into the courtyard and ran towards the right portal to help the warriors retreating there. The huge reliefs of the main gates towered beside him. 2 of his warriors ran to join him, taking it in turns to fire backwards and cover his advance. He raced to save another scythe, only to see him transfixed on the sharp claws of a stooping shrike and carried off. Spores were hurtling towards the courtyard. The first was misjudged, slamming into the cliff, exploding fluids and dead gaunt-strain attack beasts everywhere. The last of his men in the yard was sinking to his knees, moaning, his flesh melting under jets of hyperacid coming in from all sides. Thracian took careful aim and put a bolt through his head. Red outlines in his company schemer chastened him. He had lost more than half his company. More spores came down. They had no braking mechanisms, but hit the ground at full speed, bursting on impact. Tyranid warriors struggled free, dripping in shock gels, opening fire as soon as their guns were clear of the flaccid skins of the spores. He ascended the right-hand stairs to the door in the tower. He could see Sothopolis from there. Its streets were full of a churning mass of aliens. A few Space Marine stragglers were limping through the door.
All squads, prepare to reform.
Thracian looked up to the citadel that enwrapped the peak of Mount Sotha and the ancient tower at the very center. Black swarms of Tyranids raged around it, swirling and diving in eerily synchronized murmurations. He paused a moment, caught on the knife blade of decision.
All Company Thunderhawks, prepare for immediate evacuation. Company, retreat to main hangar. We are leaving. May the Emperor guard us all, he said. He turned to go. Between him and the door, the Icarus quad cannon continued to shoot, its machine spirit smoothly spinning the gun on its turntable to track the creatures in the sky. It banged death in 4-shot bursts. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, 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 bang. The sound thumped into Thracian's head. The battle's noise receded. He found he could not move. Slowly he lowered his weapons. There was something behind him, something vast and cold. He turned slowly and looked up into the dead black eyes of a shrike. It towered over him, the upper wing limbs furled, its biocannon throbbing with the expectation of release. It did not fire. Instead, it leaned down, mouth hissing. Something looked out from behind its eyes that was immeasurably ancient and evil. The thing, there, in the blackness of its soul, touched his mind. It judged him. It pinned him in place. Thracian found he could not move. Such was the potency of its regard. A spray of yellow blood erupted from the thing's gut. Bolt explosions ripped it in half. The top fell away, the legs folded into themselves. The spell was broken. Brother Skadus of the 3rd Tactical Squad marched forwards, the ammo feeds on his heavy bolter clunking as they drew fresh rounds from his backpack hopper, and grabbed Thracian's pauldron. My lord, he said, through the wall, back behind the main defenses.
A warrior lacking his legs was dragged through the door by his brothers. Ceramite clanged from adamantium. Blood leaked onto the ground.
"I,"
said Thracian.
"You ordered us to retreat. Thracian! I..."
Now.
Chapter Master,
said Felix. Thracian blinked. He was on the wall. The quad cannon was silent at his back. Not then, but now. The dead were gone. The Tyranids absent. Cold stars burned in place of the stolen sky. The Tetrarch stood in front of him with the Archmagos Dominus call.
What did you see?
Felix demanded urgently.
What did you see? I saw the end of the world,
said Thracian numbly.
I saw the day I was made, said Felix. I am not alone. We all saw something, said Felix. But you were entranced the longest. You ran up here. None of us could stop you. What about my warriors? Safe, though all experienced visions. There were stories, Thracian began. Stories about the mountain. Interesting, said Cole. You saw something. What did you see?
Thracian asked. Belisarius Cole smiled.
Something almost as interesting as that.
He pointed at the wall gun and the bright silver threads connecting it to the black rock of the mountain. Chapter 9. Beacon.
This metal here connects the gun to the Xenos device in the mountain, said Cole.
His bionic fingers tapped all along the length of the connection, while other limbs tasted it with sensing apparatus. The metal made an organic-looking ridge, peaked and forked like a tree root, that wrapped around the gun's podium and penetrated it in several places.
You see here how the rock of the Pharos extrudes through the local basalt, close enough to the surface to put out these tendrils to the wall gun.
A small plasma torch emerged from an aperture on Cole's side and ignited with a soft hiss. The Magos sectioned part of the silver metal. It bled green light, then flowed back together.
Fascinating, said Cole. You said there were stories,
Felix said to Thracian. The chapter master nodded.
Traditions, myths, talk of something under the mountain that our first chapter master, Obadiah, was commanded to watch over. There are other stories, older still, of the mountain being alive. It was always assumed they were fanciful, originating because of the strange properties of the rock. There were those who held it affected the human mind and brought strange dreams. We thought nothing of it. There are many caves, said Felix. Did your chapter never investigate?
The main apertures were filled with ferrocrete before the chapter was founded. Inside the peak, only the uppermost tunnels are clear. They are where we interred our dead. It was our solemn duty to ensure no cave was ever opened, and to keep the people of Sotha from the mountain. These duties were part of our chapter cult, never questioned, obediently upheld. But it went no further than that. This galaxy is full of wonders. What notice should we have paid to a mountain of stoppered holes? It barred scans. What of it? I've seen many odder things during my service.
Have there been any visions noted in your records?
Nothing, said Thracian. Not in 9,000 years.
Any tremors?
Nothing out of the ordinary. Sotha is tectonically active. We have earthquakes and occasional volcanism, but nothing strange. Cole was humming, peering closely at the metal link. Hair-fine probes drilled into it, and he fell silent a while. Felix shook his head. He attempted readings from the mountain and the fortress. Static rattled his autosensors.
This radiation is not helping, said Felix.
Cole straightened.
It is not my doing. The mountain is waking. Your devices are blinded by the energies from within. It is linked to the wall guns. It is too weak to reactivate all of your weaponry. Indeed, much of it might well be incompatible with the Xenos technology. But we can be sure that it will be attempting to bring the main orbital batteries online as a first line of defense.
Cole smiled behind the skin of energy holding in his air supply.
I recommend we stop it.
How? Said Thracian. I am locked out. Can you get back into the chapter noosphere? Perhaps we can deactivate the fortress weapons that way.
I will do what I can, but it might not be so simple. You said first line of defense, said Felix. I did. The mountain is waking.
but has not yet woken. However, all activity of reanimated Xenos facilities increases exponentially, especially where threat is involved. It will replace your guns with superior weaponry as soon as it can synthesize them. You speak of Xenos, said Thracian. You say their ancient toys are more powerful than the full arsenal of an Adeptus Astartes chapter. Is that not heresy against your religion? Oh, yes, said Call cheerily. Multiple small limbs were performing sample-gathering operations from the metal while he spoke to them, as if his own augmetics had lives and minds of their own. I've never been one to play by the rules. The builders of this mountain would find your guns extremely primitive. It may be heretical, but that does not stop it from being true. Can we stop it? Said Felix. Sotha is dead, and that is a terrible shame. But worse than that is a awakening Xenos world on the edge of Lord Gilliman's domain. Possibly, said Cor. Do you even want to stop it? Said Felix. It is my guess, Archmagos, that you are here for more than a survey. That is true, said Cor. I was not exaggerating when I said that this mountain could save us all. But in order for it to do so, I require it to wake up. I cannot possibly allow, said Felix, only to be interrupted again. Do you have any inkling what lies under our feet, Decimus? Not much, said Felix, but I am familiar with the work of the Necrons. This metal, the green energy source, the Blackstone, this is Necron technology. A tomb world here would be a disaster. We must destroy it before it attains full reanimation. There have never been any sign of Necrons here, said Thracian. The unlikeliest of places have turned out to be tomb worlds, said Felix. This is my command. Should this be the first signs of a tomb world awakening, we will return from the surface. We will destroy Mount Pharos. Just a moment, Decimus, said Call. Point the first. This is not a tomb world. Point the second, although this is a Necron facility, ultimately it is the work of something older even than they, said Call. Although the second point is me being merely pedantic, if I am completely honest. Felix lost his temper. You speak obtusely all the time, Call. You do it to demonstrate your superior intellect, in which case I say bravo. We are all impressed, but I ask you to stop your games. Speak plainly. The fate of so much hangs on every passing minute. Very well. Here is plain history, plainly delivered. Call crossed some of his arms. His probes retreated back within his armored torso. There was, long ago, a war in heaven, he said. So the Eldari call it, and though it happened long before mankind evolved, and before the Eldari dominated the stars, it remains prominent in their myths. From what I've pieced together from not always willing informants, the Necrons won this war, but in doing so their power was broken. They went to sleep. As we are all painfully aware, they are now waking up. This mountain has stood here since their days of greatness. Consider its shape. Consider its coating of basalt. Over the eons, it must have been submerged under water. It must have been part of the seabed and covered by volcanic eruption. Throughout this world's geological history, it has moved and shifted with the crawl of tectonic plates. Yet it has always been adapting, always working. What is it? Said Felix. You should tell us that, also plainly. It is a quantum empathic resonance beacon, said Call. The Necrons are masters of the physical realm. Their understanding of matter and the nature of the materium is so profound, they can accomplish miracles that other races must rely upon the warp to achieve. I have come to believe that their ability to travel faster than light and communicate over interstellar distances must have been dependent on networks of beacons like Mount Pharos. Exactly how, I am not sure, but I suspect at the center of every one is an entangled supermass of isolated particles, perfectly in tune with others of their kind, scattered across the galaxy. They are strange, these tangles, and powerful. Not only do they influence each other, allowing instant transmission of data,
But they can also alter the sympathetic frequencies of other particles near to them, aligning them with other tangles with targeted, predictable effects.
Explain more clearly, said Felix.
This machine exploits the fundamental laws of physics to connect multiple parts of reality together with no need of the warp. That is the simplest way I can express it, said Cool.
I say again, we've seen nothing of this in 9,000 years, said Thracian.
You told Felix just now of the legends surrounding this mountain, said Cool.
I did.
You will admit that 9,000 years compared to 65 million years is nothing.
Relatively, yes, said Thracian.
Do you know the stories of mountain dreaming? Asked Cool.
Legends, myths, old wives' tales, said Thracian, though less surely.
Apparently not. You see, we have all just experienced it.
The visions, said Felix. They come from the mountain.
They do. But they are not visions. They are direct interfaces with the past, and, as you all no doubt experienced, with each other's past. The realignment of one's present physical state with its past state is exquisite genius at work. But this sharing of pasts astounds me. He laughed. I, Belisarius Cawl, am astounded. He reached under his hood and pulled something from the back of his skull with a small click. Cawl displayed a small black-green bead in his palm. I fitted this before I arrived to allow me to communicate with the Pharos. Apparently you don't need this to hear the mountain's call. The machine is stronger than I thought. Perhaps it will help me interact more deeply with it. He replaced the bead. Maybe not.
That's dangerous, said Felix.
It is, said Cawl. A lot of what I do is dangerous. I do have a reputation to uphold, Decimus, so forgive me.
Has it been dormant all this time? Said Felix.
Records in the Library of Ptolemy suggest much activity before an attack during the Great Heresy War by the 8th Legion. Thereafter, its functionality was compromised.
Was it ever restored?
Far from it, said Cawl. My brothers in those days gutted the mountain of all its machinery, so I thought. He paused. It is conceivable I was among them.
You are unsure, said Felix.
Archmagos, much of what you say is alarming. Not only the provenance of this beacon, but the cavalier way you approach it.
I'm not entirely reckless, I promise. If I was here before, I have no recollection. My memory is patchy, to use the Ultramarian vernacular. He paused again. That may change if the mountain has its way.
Explain further, demanded Felix.
This series of fugue events is characterized by the random accessing of memory fragments, or more precisely, realignment of our present consciousness with fragments of our past. In my case, all of these moments were lost to me. You might find it surprising, Tetrarch, but there are many gaps in my memory. I've been mind-wiped by my enemies at least once, probably twice, and although I keep comprehensive data archives as backup to my internal memcores, and am indeed obliged to memory dump every 5 centuries, owing to the limitations of storage within my physical frame, data corruption has taken its inevitable toll. Some of my stores are lost, some are destroyed, some have been stolen. Despite my best efforts to preserve my experiences and my knowledge, I have failed. My existence is an incomplete book, even to me, its author. He took a modest bow.
My time aboard your ship is the only part of my life I do not clearly recall, said Felix. I am seeing it again.
No, said Cawl. You are living it again. The machine is responsible.
But why? Said Thracian. Why is it doing it?
It could be a form of attack, exposing us to these lost parts of our lives. Cawl shrugged, which for him was a complicated motion involving multiple limbs. How is more interesting to me. Some advanced form of field interaction, I suspect. As far as I'm aware, the Pharos has no noosphere, as my colleagues would understand it, but they don't understand much. It is a machine, and all machines can be accessed. The trick is knowing how. He tapped the back of his head, where the bead was seated, then gestured at the fortress monastery gates. I know how to gain access. The knowledge was gained at cost, as much knowledge is, but the Pharos will find it is not the only one who can reach into the beings of others.
I do not like this,
said Felix. He stared at the silver web binding the war gun to the alien device.
I am unconvinced that we should be here.
Let me put my case. You must learn to understand how important this installation is. Although I surmise this beacon network to be crucial to the Necron's mastery of space, the number of nodes must have been relatively small, because I found only one other similar to this in all my life.
That you can remember,
said Felix. Granted, although something that important, I make sure to record in multiple places, said Cole. The other one was destroyed utterly from the inside out. It was dead. This one is alive, and it's repairing itself. It may indeed have already repaired itself. He looked up to the mountain peak. This is an opportunity of inestimable value.
As miraculous as these beacons are, or were, the secrets of their technology is not my primary goal, though I stress any knowledge gathered would be most welcome. In each of these mountains must be a vast repository of wisdom. You are aware of Blackstone, also known as Noctolith.
This mountain is made of it, said Felix. Indeed it is. Then you want to quarry it, said Fraser. Paul laughed. No, definitely not. I'm not some backward data grabber from Metal.
Amma. Yes. Yes. Amma. புரியல. Alright guys, I'm gonna call it for a break here. Cookie's being very needy at the moment. You go be a dad. Thank you guys all so much for watching. I'll catch you guys all next time. So from me, till then, peace out.